Good Sunday evening. I'm KSN Storm Track 3 Chief Meteorologist Lisa Teachman, and I have a special guest with me today, filling in for meteorologist Lucy Dahl, the meteorologist Jack Maney.
The one and only.
The one and only, right?
Hey, Lisa, it's good to be here today.
Good to have you here. We had a wonderful chat the last time that you were filling in for Lucy a couple of weeks ago. But of course, the more meteorologists, the merrier. And we encourage you to join in on Facebook. We are live on Facebook. We are also live on our CTV channel. If you have any weather questions that you would like to ask us, please do so. It is now officially fall. Fall rolled in to Kansas, across the globe, last week.
Yeah, and I tell you what, it doesn't really feel like fall all that much to me. I was thinking about this the other day, and it's like we spent all summer dealing with kind of like a springtime kind of feel. It was raining a lot, and now as soon as we flip the switch over to fall, it feels like summertime's here. It's quiet, it's warm, it's sunny.
And when you say it's warm, but it's also dry.
Yeah.
My yard is finally getting a chance to dry things out. I don't know if you had a chance to check out on my Facebook page. I posted this yesterday. I need to get some type of grate or something on top of my egress because I get a lot of critters that will fall down in to that egress window. Yesterday, I pulled out 8 frogs. I originally posted 7, and I thought that there were 8 in there, but there was one little booger that was underneath the sand. And so he came up afterwards, and I think he came out and he looked around. He's like, where did all my friends go? They're all gone. So I thought, I got to go down and I need to rescue this one last frog, put him where I put all the others in the backyard. And I also had a snake, too. I've had more snakes that I have pulled out of that egress window than I have in the last 4 or 5 years that I've lived there.
Yeah, and I think it all really comes down to how wet the summer was. Really, I've noticed it a lot in the form of crickets this year.
Crickets.
I swear, there have been easily 5 or 6 times the number of crickets just around my house than there were this time last year when we were still in the drought. Now it's like they're just going crazy.
One thing that I've noticed where my husband and I live is the fact that it seems like it changes every single year. Some years we're going to have more of the moths. This year it seems to be more of the frogs and the snakes. And of course that all is because of the wet summer that we have had. And when we've been looking at our weather pattern, I think when we got into this drier pattern last week, it was me, it was Lucy, and it was meteorologist Jack Boston. We all looked at the forecast sheet and we're like, man, it's been a long time since we forecasted something like this.
Yeah, there's no rain chances?
No rain chances.
For a solid week. I know that like rain chances are kind of our bread and butter. It's what keeps us busy, but I was just kind of feeling this sense of relief, Like we've been busy with this stuff all summer long. We barely had a break, and now finally this, at least for 1 week, we've just been able to kind of dust ourselves off, just take a little breath of that fresh air and just think, you know what? I finally don't have to think too hard about what the weather's going to be doing this week.
When you have the heat dome, what's left of the heat dome right now? But today it did get pretty toasty. Some temperatures were in the 90s, especially through central Kansas, back into the northeast. But
Yeah, this time of the year, the heat dome, the high pressure center, it kind of starts losing some of the teeth that it has over the summer. And really this time of the year, it kind of becomes a little bit more of a welcome guest in our skies because, it keeps us warm and dry, but not too hot. But sometimes, we can have temperatures that get a little bit toasty this time of the year.
And speaking of which, this time of year, we always talk about hurricanes because hurricane season kicks off June 1st, and it concludes November 30th, and the tropics have been heating up. We have 2 named systems in the Atlantic that we're watching rather closely, one of which is Umberto, which was a Category 5 storm, but now it has been downgraded to a Category 4 storm. And these type of storms, Jack, they like to fluctuate quite a bit. Whenever you have a storm that's this powerful of this magnitude, of course, you're going to see some fluctuations back and forth, but also the track that it's taking it to is going to be a little bit farther to the north in the Atlantic.
Yeah, and that's great news because Umberto just looked vicious yesterday whenever it was at its peak, and it still was just a very impressive presentation there on satellite. But
it is. You can see the well-defined eye with it. You can also see how it is just churning, but that's not the only system that we have in the Atlantic. We also have another one that is actually farther to the west that is over toward the Bahamas. And So this is going to be the path that Humberto is going to take. Winds right now at 145 miles per hour. It's going to continue to have it go from the category 4 status that it is right now. Then it's going to drop to a 3, then a 2, but you see how it abruptly starts to shift back into the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah, and as it moves back out to sea, it might be able to brush Bermuda with just some of the tropical storm force winds, like the outer bands of the storm may be able to, because it is going to also be expanding and growing larger as it moves off towards the north and east. But yeah, that's about as good of a track as it could possibly take away from land. We get to sit here and marvel at it from the weather centers all across the country. All the meteorologists are just, we're all just kind of keeping one eye on Humberto and one eye on what's happening a little bit closer to home. But yeah, it's just great getting to watch these really impressive storms whenever we know that they're really not going to be a big threat to people.
This one over the Bahamas, though, producing a lot of heavy rainfall. We now have winds up to 40 miles per hour, so this makes it a tropical storm. Latest update from the National Hurricane Center at 4 o'clock, 40 mile per hour winds. It is tracking to the north at 9 miles per hour, so it's going to cut right through the Bahamas, but then this is also going to take one of those other abrupt turns back out to sea, just like Humberto.
Yeah, and actually that is going to be happening because of Humberto. Whenever we get these two storms that get really closer together like this, you may have heard the term Fujiwara effect tossed around every now and again.
Okay, Fujiwara, have to stop you there, because if
Yeah.
you've seen the movie Twisters, you know what the Fujiwara effect is, because you see what happens with one tornado after another and how they work around each other. And Fujiwara comes to us from Dr. Ted Fujita, who it was named after. And Dr. Ted Fujita, he was a genius, did a lot of research when it came to not only tornadoes. We have the tornado rating system that is named after him, but also he did a lot of research when it came to downbursts as well.
Yeah, and I always think about it. You know those games where it's like the two spinning tops are kind of dueling it out. I think it's like Beyblade.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen those, if you ever had, maybe if your kids were playing with those when they were younger, I know that was kind of a big thing whenever I was growing up. But that's kind of what happens. These storms, they kind of circle around each other whenever they get close. It's pretty rare to see whenever you actually have two storms getting close enough to interact with each other. But basically what's going to happen is Humberto's just going to be passing to the east of Imelda, and it's just going to basically yank it back out into the ocean, which is fantastic news, because we were really worried a couple of days ago that Imelda might not get grabbed by Humberto.
And it might go right into South Carolina,
exactly.
Could go into Georgia, North Carolina, somewhere in that part of the country.
Yeah, without that big hurricane out there in the Atlantic, that's the track that Imelda would have taken. So that is just, like, I'd say Humberto's kind of I honestly think it might be the nicest hurricane we've ever seen, because it's staying away from land, but also keeping another storm away from land too, doing two jobs.
Yeah, definitely some good news when it comes to the tropics. As for our high temperatures here, let's go ahead and take a look at some of our highs that we've had across the state. This will probably be finalized at about 6:30 this evening. Sometimes you have a late day high that could adjust this out by another degree or so. But right now it looks like we've had the 90s this afternoon in Hill City, Great Bend, Medicine Lodge for the Sunday afternoon, Manhattan and Concordia at 91. Average high for Wichita this time of year, 79. So we're above the norm, and this is expected to continue with us because of the type of weather pattern that we're in. We also, have you noticed a little bit of cloud cover higher up in the atmosphere that's just been, coming in waves? You'll see one little push of cloud cover, higher up another push, and this is actually turning in our direction due to the monsoonal moisture or an area of low pressure that's been cut off from the flow in the desert Southwest.
Yeah, and all that moisture that's getting drawn in from the Pacific Ocean coming up over northern Mexico and into the desert Southwest. Big time, this is where most of the rainfall that actually happens throughout the desert Southwest comes from throughout the year. Like, this is the rainy season for those areas in the desert to the west. And yeah,
and it's also technically a little later than you would typically expect. You would expect this more in July and August.
Yeah, so it's keeping that rainfall going into the later season, whenever we would usually expect the taps to get kind of turned off, which is, of course, also good news, because we're still in a drought much farther to the west. So the drought is much more severe severe over the desert Southwest right now. So this is just fantastic news for these folks.
And we may get one or two showers that will come close to the Kansas-Colorado state line tonight, and even northwest Kansas by tomorrow evening. But if you win the rain lottery tomorrow, like parts of extreme southwest Kansas into the Oklahoma Panhandle did Saturday evening, count yourself lucky. So let's go ahead and time it out. Here's the clouds. You see how one wave after another starts to approach. And then Monday evening between 9-10 o'clock, most of this is still to the west of us in central eastern Colorado, arcing into western Nebraska. And then we may see one or two that will try to pop up in extreme northwest Kansas. And there's some signs that maybe Wednesday night we could have a couple of other sprinkles and showers, but I'm not holding out hope for that. I'm actually holding out for hope for a pattern change next weekend. We have this strong cold front that comes through. This cold front is going to be sparking widespread yet scattered showers and thunderstorms.
Yeah, and it's good. It's going to be coming in because we're finally going to break down that heat dome in the upper atmosphere. We'll get the jet stream back into play, and by that point, hopefully we'll also have a little more moisture for that front to play with, so it won't just sweep through dry and just dry us back out once again.
And then if you look into next week, model guidance suggests that we're going to have a front that's going to be sticking around. It will divide the state. You live south of the boundary, not this week, but the following week. It's still going to be hot ahead of the boundary to the south, but cooler air will start to seep in behind it. And we're going to have one round of rainfall after another. It's almost like we're going back into the ring of fire starting next weekend and continuing through the following week. But as for this week, it just looks like it's going to continue to stay dry.
Yeah, nice, sunny, mildly warm, I would say. It's great weather to just go outside, go for a run, go for a walk, or do some outdoor chores. I know some folk might be time to start thinking about like winterizing things because
Don't get me started on that because my husband and I had the conversation. Okay, we need to make sure that we call the air conditioning people. We need to make sure that we get all of that ready to go for when that starts to happen. And then the furnace, let's get a jump start on that for when temperatures do start to cool off. And I did have the question this weekend. The question was, are we going to have to worry about the frost and the freeze just yet? Because we could get them in late September, we could get them in early October, but model guidance suggests that we're probably not going to see that at all through the middle parts of October.
Yeah, that front that's coming in later this week, the one that is going to have those storm chances with it potentially, it's not an extremely strong cold front.
No,
it will be substantial enough.
Yeah.
It'll cool us down maybe back about to where we should be for this time of the year, but
Or maybe even a little bit lower. We're talking upper 60s, lower 70s for highs, but a lot of that's going to depend on the clouds and also timing out the rainfall during the day too.
yeah, it's not looking like one of those classic freezer door left open kind of cold fronts that we
Not at all.
often start seeing this time of the year. So at least for the time being, at least the foreseeable future, looks like we're not going to have any major cool downs, nothing that would take us closer to freezing at night.
And even northwest Kansas, where you could get the cooler temperatures first, even then it looks like it may drop late next week, not this week, the following week, maybe into the lower 40s. We may be able to avoid any frost, any freeze headlines at that time, but we'll continue to watch it. That is still a long ways down the road.
Yeah, and until we kind of dislodge all this high pressure that's been hanging around over our heads, yeah, it's just going to kind of stay about like we've been. And this also, even if we do have, whenever we have a high pressure center overhead, it's just kind of like a big old lid over top of the atmosphere. It stops clouds from developing and growing into thunderstorms. So that's why, even though we might occasionally have some moisture in place throughout this week, it's just not going to be able to develop into anything.
Checking in with our Facebook Live. If you have any weather questions for us, please post them in the comment section. Jacob Edwards says, hi, Chief Meteorologist Lisa Teachman and Meteorologist Jack Maney. Hello, Jacob.
Hey.
And Glenise says, speaking of crickets, I've had only one in my room that loves to wake me up. Can't find the little thing, though.
Oh, that's my least favorite thing about crickets is that as soon as you get close to them, they go quiet. So they'll find their way into this one little crevice that you just can't figure out where they are.
Yeah.
I have a grudge against crickets that have kept me up at night. Like I keep earplugs in my
no
room.
kidding.
So for
Wow.
like just in case there's some kind of noise that I can't escape when I need to be sleeping at certain times. So sometimes you gotta game the system a little bit.
See, this is why I have multiple fans. I have the ceiling fan and I have another fan that sits in the corner. because I have to have that noise. Jacob also says, I enjoyed the weather yesterday when I was at Gold Fest in El Dorado. Yeah, it's been a beautiful weekend. Weekend. But some would say this is a little too warm right now, which we just talked about that. Yes, our temperatures are above average for this time of year. And Travis says our fur babies are sure enjoying the nice weather. And Paul Crossfield Sr. says, hi, Lisa. Hi, Paul. Any weather questions, again, post them in the comments section. Okay, so here's what's happening with the heat dome this week. Heat dome just off to the east of us. It's still going to meander nearby. We're basically in what's known as a blocking pattern across the United States. Blocking meaning you're not seeing much of a change. You're not seeing a progressive pattern where you have one cold front after another. You're basically locked in place. And this high is going to lock in place. We have the system that's off to the southwest of us. But then as we get into this weekend, now this is what's going to be the kicker. This is going to be the trough. This is going to be the area of low pressure that's going to be sending out these different disturbances and the cold front that will be moving in next weekend.
Yep, and that's where our cold front's going to be. You can see just kind of that tongue of the cooler air coming to the south around that area of low pressure. That's your cold front right there, and that's going to bring us that next chance of rainfall. Finally going to kind of get out of this whole pattern where we're just kind of feels like we're kind of stuck.
We are stuck
stuck
in a
sitting
rut.
in place.
But you know what? It's okay.
It could be worse.
It
could always be much worse.
It could be worse. Yeah. Here's another thing you have to look at the way that our weather pattern is and how things are going to help us out when it comes to our fall foliage colors. You have to have the moisture available. We have had the moisture that's become available. But you also need to have the warm days and you need to have the crisp nights in order to allow that fall foliage color to really liven up. And I think we're going to start to see that within the next 3, 4, 6 weeks. So we will have some warm afternoons. We're going to have the crisp, clear nights, which is going to help pave the path for some beautiful fall foliage. If you have some of the trees in your neighborhood, I have some in mine. I have purposely planted some maple trees so that way I could have more of that orangish hue once we get the cooler temperatures in here and we start to see that sun angle go farther and farther into the southern horizon. And you look at our temperatures tonight, we're going to be dropping into the 50s, a few lower 60s across central Kansas, 56 in Elkhart, 56 tonight in Liberal, lower 60s in Wichita, Salina, and Concordia. We'll be close to the lower 60s in Medicine Lodge and also Arc City, maintaining our winds from the south. Now today, temperatures were able to climb into the upper 80s in Wichita, and it's because we've had more of that southerly wind. Why is it that we are going from temperatures today from the upper 80s, you're taking the top off for Wichita for tomorrow, and it's because of this, more of a southeasterly push. So that's going to rob us of a few degrees, but I think we're also going to have a little bit more cloud cover in the upper levels of the atmosphere that will be coming in from the west.
Yeah, those two things working in concert with each other because, when we're trying to figure out exactly how warm we're going to get, we really do factor in a lot of things, and wind direction is a huge part of actually getting that forecast, that
and amount of
right.
moisture that you have in the atmosphere too,
Yep,
which we're consistently drying that out.
Yeah, lots of different factors because the thing about Kansas, we always say Kansas is flat as a pancake. Well, it's a pancake that's on a slope.
Yep.
It gets the elevation increases as you go to the west, and as
2,000 to 3,000 feet in
and
elevation,
as air rises, as it goes up that slope, the pressure drops a little bit, and that actually makes the temperature drop a little bit too. So when you get that east wind coming in, that easterly component of the wind, that actually does help to cool things down just a little bit, and it works in the opposite direction. When you get that westerly component out of the wind, that actually helps to warm things up a few degrees too.
This is such a great thing to explain when it comes to our state. In Kansas City, when it comes to Wichita, any place, if you get an easterly wind, you're just not going to warm up. Northeasterly wind, it's going to be a cooler wind flow. Southerly wind warms you up, but what really also helps to warm you up is southwesterly wind. But also, like you mentioned, the westerly wind, because you actually have the wind that's riding down that slope that we talked about. And as it's riding down that slope, it helps to warm up. So that's a few things that we always look at. There's so many different things that we look at in the atmosphere when we're coming and creating the forecast that you see, not only for the Wichita area, but we create 4 different weather forecasts: Wichita, north central Kansas, northwest Kansas, and southwest Kansas.
Yep, and basically just the rule of thumb is if air goes up, it gets cooler. If it goes down, it gets warmer. That's just kind of universally true across the atmosphere anywhere you go.
Going back to our Facebook Live, any weather questions, please post them here. Jacob says, my chickens are enjoying this weather. Olivia, hello, Olivia. Thank you for joining us. And also, I think Jacob was really enjoying the conversation that we're having here. Looking ahead to the next week when it comes to our temperatures, 79. That is our average high. We are above that, lower to middle 80s. Friday gets a little bit warmer for Friday football fever at about 86. But then over the weekend, cold front comes through. We go from 83 on Saturday to the upper 70s on Sunday. And then the following week, it looks like we're going to be favoring more of the 70s. We may actually turn a little bit below the norm.
Yeah, and some spots could even get a little closer to the 60s. So next week looking like we'll finally feel a little bit more like the season, a little bit more like fall's finally here. But yeah, for those of you who like the summertime temperatures, live it up while it's here. It's gonna feel just a little bit summer-like. Maybe if you still haven't put the pool away, if you have one of the above-ground swimming pools, or if the pool's still ready to use, then maybe just go swimming a few more times before it's all done for the season.
I know some folks in my neighborhood that are still going swimming, like at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, really, really early, because water has a higher heat capacity. So if it's warm during the day, it's still going to be warm the next morning.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the same reason why you can't really start, whenever we start warming up in the spring, like April and May, you still really can't go swimming all that much because the water takes so much longer to warm up.
But then at the same time, your land, the continental temperature difference, which we're experiencing now, it's why we warm up so much during the day and then cool off so much during the night. When you have a drier atmosphere, that helps to promote that. So really cool, really, really interesting. Okay, so Jack, this week, I had a busy week. What all did you do this week?
Oh, I've been, this is day 5 out of 7 because, Lucy's on vacation, so sometimes we have to fill in, take a little bit of a longer week. But, I've just been kind of in my workflow this week. Just working on projects at home, trying to stay on top of just chores and that kind of thing. I'm living kind of a boring life, I would say, this week.
I had a pretty busy one when it came to, I spoke to the fine folks at Oxford Villa. We had a great weather chat. And of course, this time of year, everybody wants to know, what is our winter season going to look like? When is our winter season going to start to evolve? We really don't start talking about that until maybe late November. We need to look at the way the weather pattern is going. I'm a firm believer that every 90 to about 120 days, our weather pattern will change. We're starting to see some fluctuation right now. So give us a little bit more time when it comes to our winter season. You look at things on a global scale, and there is discussion that we're going to have La Nina, at least for a little bit, when it comes up this winter. But as for Kansas, Kansas is always the wild card. You can't say that we're going to be warmer or we're going to be cooler. It all comes down to the way the weather pattern is shaping up.
Yeah, and things like that, La Nina, different things that oscillate throughout the entire Earth climate system. It's kind of a it's like these things help to kind of pull us in certain directions, but we're still probably going to have some warm days. We're going to have some cold days. There'll be some probably.
There's going to be snow. There might be a little bit of ice. Just depends on location.
Yep, it's just the question is, do we trend more one direction or the other? And this early on, it's pretty tough to make those forecasts months in advance. We work on it. We do our best, but it's tough to know with any kind of real genuine skill that far in advance.
Olivia asks, when you were kids, what was your dream job like? What did you want to be? Was it a meteorologist or something else? I will let you answer this question.
All right.
first.
Well, it was several different careers at once. Meteorologist was really top of the list the entire time, but I also at first wanted to be a volcanologist. I've harbored a lifelong fascination with volcanoes ever since I was little, and that was actually volcanoes were my first love before I really got really interested in weather. I saw those big fountains of fire coming out of like Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, and I was just awestruck as a kid. But also wanted to for a while I really wanted to be the guy who drives trains too.
Which you still have a fascination for.
Yeah, I still have a fascination for all these different things.
Yeah.
It's just takes more of like a hobby side of things rather than actually the career path.
When was that moment that you realized, you know what? Meteorology is what I want to do.
That was I finally set that in stone whenever we had those major tornado events in the Oklahoma City area back in 2011 and 2013. Those kind of really solidified this like volcanoes are cool, driving trains would be fun, but weather is something that impacts the people around me a lot, and it's a I guess I would call it a calling, just to be the one who's there to give people the information they need to keep themselves safe.
A lot of times when it comes to meteorologists, you may know from a certain storm, whether it was a winter storm when you were a kid, or like you realized when it came to that tornado outbreak, that, okay, this is what I want to do. For me, it was a little bit of a different setup. I think it was my calling. I think the universe had been saying it since the day I was born, that this was what I was supposed to do, but I was never listening. Before I was born, my grandpa and my great uncle Doug, they were some of the first storm spotters around here when it came to amateur radio. And if there was a severe thunderstorm, they would usually be out relaying that information. And then when my dad got out of the service and he moved back here, back in, I think it was 1983, 1984, my dad took up with RACES, which stands for Radio Amateur Civil Emergency Services in Sedgwick County. So he works specifically with his storm spotting group in Sedgwick County. Storm spotting is different than storm chasing. Storm chasing means that you're going to go after that storm. But storm spotting means you pick one place in the county and you send that information back. What are you seeing? What are the winds doing? And honestly, when I was a kid, I was scared to death of storms. As my mom would tell you way back when, if the tornado sirens would go off in Hayesville, I would start hyperventilating. The police department going up and down the streets, their lights, their sirens on. We had sirens on, it started off, the first siren was with the older water tower that was taken completely out by the 99 tornado over by the old industrial area by the railroad tracks. That one, and then we had the new water tower that was put in on the west side, and then they put one over there. And for whatever reason, I think it was also the Heston tornado day of 1990 that amped that up. And then on April 26, 1991, I remember that day. But different things were happening in the universe that said, this is what you need to do. Are you listening? Come on, are you listening, kid? Mm-hmm. Fourth grade reading teacher, Mrs. Stewart, still to this day will say, hey, I gave you your first gig. I was the meteorologist in our reading group that did the weather. And then in fifth grade, I got to take a tour of KSN with then Chief Meteorologist Mike Smith. And right where our weather center is right now, where you and I both forecast, that is where he had weather data, his own private weather forecasting company. And I remember the T-shirt that I had on had a big tornado on it that said, Toto, I think we're back in Kansas. But still, it wasn't clicking for me. I thought I was going to be an architect. I love drawing houses. I even won a competition in fifth grade for drawing this amazing house. I had my path. I was going to go and become an architect. I was going to go to K-State. That was how my path was going to go. Then I took a drafting class at Campus High School and realized this was not for me. I loved watching the news through the 80s and the 90s, all the chief Mets. And I think that maybe a little bit of that anxiety was more excitement about the atmosphere. I misunderstood it. And so I wrote to all three chief meteorologists when I was 16 years old. And I said, can I come in and shadow you? Can I intern with you? And I spent one day with Ben Pringle over at then Channel 10. Loved it. And then I think it was divine intervention. Dave Freeman wrote me a letter back in 1996, October of 1996. So next year marks 30 years since I started off as an intern right here at KSN.
Wow.
And I remember Dave used to tease me all the time. He said, you are my retirement plan. And I thought that he was just trying to give me an ego, pump me up a little bit. But he was actually being legit. He was being serious about it. When he decided to retire, he said, kiddo, in 5 days, I'm going to announce my retirement. Can you come back and fill my shoes? And I literally moved heaven and high water to leave the station that I was at in Kansas City so I could come back and I could serve you right here at KSN. It's been 8 years now, and I am proud to say that my feet are firmly planted and I am not going anywhere for many, many years. I hope to retire from here one day. I'm going to say that right here on live on Facebook. And I think that it is such an honor to be able to teach the next generation. As Dave Freeman used to say to me all the time, the way that you pay me back is to pay it forward. That's why I go to so many different schools and hope that I encourage the next generation. Who knows? Maybe one of those kids will come and take my job one day. But it's also an honor to be able to guide you, to guide Lucy and Ronell, and to pass on all the things that I have learned, whether it's the good, the bad, or the ugly, so that way you're prepared down the road for your career as well.
Yeah, and it's great to be here and just kind of, I feel like I learn something new every single day that I'm here on the job. And it's been a fantastic, gosh, it's been going on 3 years
Almost
now.
3 years.
Yeah.
Early next year. That's
wow.
right. 8 years for me now, and we are both nowhere near done. All right, so we are coming up. It is the pregame on KSN. It is the Green Bay Packers and also the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to go ahead and let you guys watch the pregame, watch the game, and we are going to be on KSN News 3 at 10 tonight after the game. It's me, it's Jeff, it's Julia, and also Jack, too. He's also helping out in the Weather Center, not to mention our amazing crew here at KSN. Everybody, enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening. Enjoy these dry, warm times while they last. We know it's going to get colder. It's probably going to get snowier. And we know that we'll always be there for you. We have a few more folks that have joined us on our Facebook Live. We have Janine. Hi, Janine. Also, Jack saying, please keep up the good work. And we also have meteorologist Colton Williams watching.
Hey, Colton. How you doing, man?
Colton. We love Colton.
Went to
over
school
across
with
the
it.
street.
Yeah, me and Colton,
Yep.
we were at OU together.
Yep. And I'm also proud to say that I've also had a little bit of a hand in mentoring him as well. Henry saying, play for the Dallas Cowboys. And also says, you guys are awesome. And then, your mama chimed in. Jack, your mama says, hi,
what'd she
Lisa
say?
and Jack. When will this humidity settle down? I need some good hair days. Okay, before we close out, you have to answer that for your mama.
All right. Well, the best I can tell you is probably not anytime soon. My mom is in Oklahoma City, so she's a little farther south, and that cold air, the dry air, has a little farther to go to really get that far south. That cold front we're going to have coming up around next weekend, it's pretty much going to stall out right around the Oklahoma-Kansas state line, wash itself out. Might take another week or so before that next big fall cold front comes in, but it'll happen eventually.
There you go, Mama Maney. Kathy, thank you so much for joining us as well. And Janine says, Chiefs win. Yes, the Chiefs have defeated the Baltimore Ravens, which Baltimore Ravens had a close personal working relationship with them at a station that I worked at in Baltimore. So love the fact that the Chiefs won. But, if the Ravens would have won too, I would have been okay with that.
Yeah,
as well.
one of those where you kind of got a foot in both
Yeah.
on both sides of the field.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And remember, KSN News 3 at 10 right after the Green Bay Packers and also the Dallas Cowboys game. Everybody have a great Sunday evening. We'll see you on KSN and always at ksn.com.